Hello, this is Mario Farina. Today I'll read a story to you entitled, I Married a Ghost. This is the picture at the front of the story. The story is available in Smashwords, www.smashwords.com. It's free for you to read and to download. While there you can see many other stories that are also free for you to read and download. I married a ghost. They were sitting face to face in the parlor's quarters. "What brings you here, Millie?" asked Pastor Harold Cooper gently. He was well acquainted with Mildred Ellen. She and her fiancé, Frank Baxter, had been talking to him about an upcoming marriage. All talk on this subject had disintegrated upon word that Frank had been killed by an IUD in Iraq. His rank had been sergeant when he died. In March, his body had been buried with military honors in Wellhaven Cemetery. "Frank has been coming to me as a ghost for several days, Pastor." Mildred spoke quietly and calmly, as if her words could be considered commonplace. The fact is, the good pastor was instantly shaken. "Frank came to you as a ghost?" Pastor Cooper repeated, as if he had not correctly heard what she had said. "I know this is an unusual thing for you to hear, Pastor," she said, "but it's true. When Frank comes, I see him as clearly as I'm seeing you now. He is dressed in an ordinary soldier's uniform. He is clean and neat and well-shaven. He smiles at me and we talk." The pastor could not find any words with which to reply. "We talk about him and me and the plans that we had been making for getting married. He tells me that he loves me dearly. The most astonishing thing he says is that he wants to marry me. I know people don't get married after they have died. I know people keep repeating what they say about marriage over and over again. He really means what he says. I want to marry him too, Pastor. Is it possible that you can marry us?" Pastor Cooper, astonished at the request, was silent for several minutes. Mildred waited patiently, knowing that what she had requested was probably an impossibility. Finally, Pastor Cooper found his voice and said, "I do understand what you're asking, but I don't see how your request could be granted. I don't know of any case where anything like this has ever been done before. I know that people are getting married under unusual circumstances these days. Same-sex marriages are common, but a marriage between a dead person and a live one, I just can't imagine it happening." "It would not have to be an elaborate marriage," she said. "If it were done in your chambers, I'm sure that Frank would be happy with that, and my objective at this time is to make him happy. Can't it be arranged in some way?" "I could do it as a dedication ceremony without any trouble," said the pastor. "I would expect that Frank would be present, at least spiritually, if not literally. Would this be acceptable?" "A dedication ceremony is not a marriage," Mildred said firmly, "and he wouldn't appear invisibly. I would be able to see him, though others wouldn't. I would expect that he would have on his best uniform and would be wearing his medals. During this wedding, people would be able to see him? Asked the pastor. I don't think so. I see him very clearly, but when he comes to the wedding, I think I would be able to see him, but you would not. Would you expect to, I don't know how to say it, consummate the marriage? No. Frank is a spirit. He has no solid substance. But for me, this would be not an important consideration. I know that under certain circumstances, people get married without expecting the marriage to be, as you say, consummated. But for me and Frank, the marriage would be real and I would become Mrs. Baxter. You would be happy under these circumstances? Yes, because I would know that one day I would be a spirit also as he is now. I don't know of any mechanism by which I can legally grant your request, said the pastor. Let me do some thinking and some inquiring around, and I'll see what might be possible. I couldn't ask for anything more, said Mildred. After Mildred had left, Pastor Cooper sat at his desk, writing down some possibilities. He wrote, same-sex marriage, current laws, special law. Then he picked up the phone and dialed a number of Congressman Wilkinson, whom he knew well. Jim, he began, I have the weirdest request that you may never have heard. One of the members of my congregation wants to get married to a dead person, a fallen soldier in Iraq. She says that he is a ghost and he's requesting the marriage and she wants to comply. I want to do whatever is possible, but I don't know what is possible. Is there any way that a marriage can be conducted legally under these circumstances? The congressman did not immediately ridicule the request or declare it to be impossible. He said, right off the top of my mind, the only thing I can think of is for Congress to pass a law allowing the marriage on a one-time basis with the two people that are involved. It would be a request unheard of in history, but for the sake of the serviceman, I think there is a chance that it might be passed. Let me check it out. Thank you, Jim. Let me know as soon as you can. In the meantime, I'll call the young woman and tell her that we are working on it and that I'll get back to her. They hung up. The pastor sat motionless for a few minutes. Then he dialed Mildred's number. Millie, I've just talked to a congressman that I know, and he will see what he can do as to what can be done. I'll get back to you when I know more. Don't expect a lot, and don't expect my answer to come right away, but I will call. There is much that happened within the next several months. There were the usual wrangles in Congress over the budget, taxes, health benefits, and others. Unbelievably, the House of Representatives actually took up consideration of the bill James Wilkinson had requested. It passed with no dissenting votes. The measure called for Pastor Cooper to conduct a wedding ceremony for a deceased soldier named Fred Baxter to a living person named Mildred Ellen at a time and place convenient to both of them. The persons needed in attendance with the pastor were the bride, groom, and a witness. The ceremony would be as complex or as simple as the bride and groom wanted it. Pastor Cooper gave the good news to Mildred as soon as he could. She was overjoyed with the information and said Saturday, June 15 at 2 p.m. would be a good time for her, and she would check with Frank to see if this date and time would also be convenient for him. Pastor Cooper thought inwardly that he could not understand why any time at all would not be convenient for a ghost. On June 15, Mildred and Pastor Cooper were sitting in the same chairs that they had sat in at an earlier time. The pastor's wife, Susan, was standing at the doorway. "Is Frank here?" Pastor Cooper asked Mildred. "I saw him last night," she responded, "and he said he would be here exactly on the dot." "How will I know if he's here?" asked the pastor. "I will tell you when he has arrived," she said. "I'll be able to see him even though you will not. He will respond to your questions and you will hear his voice. I'll be looking forward to this myself, since even though I have been seeing him for several weeks, I've never heard him speak to anyone else." "I'm happy to see you again, Pastor Cooper," came a disembodied voice. Pastor Cooper, greatly astonished, looked in every direction but saw no one. He had enough presence of mind, however, to stand and ask the bride and groom to place themselves facing him. Then, assuming that they were there, he began the ceremony. Although the pastor was not able to see Sergeant Baxter, Mildred could see that he was there beside her. As she had expected, he was dressed in a handsome uniform and with medals on his chest. When the pastor asked if Frank would take Mildred as his lawful wife, the clear voice of Sergeant Baxter was heard robustly saying, "I do." Mildred responded to the question in the same way. Pastor Cooper declared the couple to be man and wife. The new Mr. and Mrs. Baxter thanked Pastor Cooper for the service he had provided, then left. Susan, who had said nothing during the ceremony, declared, "I never felt so strange in all my life." "It was strange for me too," responded her husband. "Oh, look," exclaimed Susan Cooper. "This wasn't here during the ceremony." She picked up an item from the table near the door and handed it to the pastor. It was an envelope containing a thank you note that was signed by Sergeant Baxter. There were also several brand new bills of paper money in the envelope with strange symbols and writing on them. These turned out to be Iraqi dinars, which the pastor and his wife never exchanged for United States dollars. That's the end of the story. Thank you for looking. Thank you for listening. Tomorrow, I'll tell you another story. Bye-bye.